What up, guys? Welcome back. Big thank you for your patience. I know I haven't been posting as frequently as I normally do. I've been really busy with work, and unfortunately, I don't do this full time. But hey, we'll get there one day, you know what I'm saying? So today we're going to talk about some of the elements on how to achieve that Toolroom style drop. Now, there's various types of Toolroom styles, but the one we're going to be focusing on is more in the style of Crusy. That's one of the reference tracks that we're going to be using today for one of his new songs. I think it's called It Feels Like Summer. I think it's an absolute banger. But this gives you more of like, I don't know, I like to call it like a Tulum feel or even like a heavy-duty European feel. So one or the other. You know, Mark Knight also has some bangers like this, but for this tutorial, I'm using a Crusy example. So some of the elements we're going to talk about are bass lines, percussions, drums, effects in the background, and then maybe even some stabs. So without further ado, let's dive in. All right, guys. So first things first, I'm going to show you the reference track that, well, we're going to be referencing, right? And then we're going to dive into the demo track that I quickly made. Guys, this isn't no Picasso work here. It's just kind of get straight to the point. So let's go ahead and hear the reference track first, and I'll show you my demo. It's over. That's the reference track, and the demo track that we're going to be going over is this. So that was the first demo, and then I also made like a small variation just to show you different types of bass lines, or actually not different types, one different type of bass line that you can do as well. So let's go ahead and hear it. I really like this one a lot. So you see how it has that heavy-duty jungle Tulum sound? That's what we're trying to achieve today. So let's go ahead and dive in. We'll start off with the bass lines. All right, so bass lines. I'm going to show you two variations of bass lines today, but I'm going to leave it up to your discretion to be creative. Now, the two variations are going to be one kind of 4 to the floor kind of a sound, more like a, I know it's going to sound funny, but like a big room style, almost like an 808. And then the other variation is going to add more groove or swing to it. Now, this is really cool because it's going to add a lot of variety into your drop. And not only people from Toolroom use this technique, but, you know, other artists such as like John Summit made it really popular in his tutorials. And so let's dive in. So guys, I'm working on a new sound bank. It's going to be more of a like minimal tech house kind of style. So the bass line I have here is just 4 to the floor, plain and simple. So it sounds like this. Very big room like, and you know, we just did some basic processing here, added some drum bus, EQ'd it a bit to remove some of the heavy duty low ends under 30-40 hertz, and a little baby glue compressor with an LFO tool. Very simple, guys, but you know, when you add it together, it doesn't sound very big room because of the other elements that I'm gonna talk about in a bit. So it sounds like this. Kind of in the back, nice and controlled. That's why we had that glue compressor to really tame it. So that's one variation. Now let's get to the juicy part. So this preset I'm gonna be using is called the thump bass that I have in my Perreo sound bank. So the bass sounds like this. Right? A lot of swing to it. So when you hear it in the context of the drop, which we heard in the demo, it sounds like this. It just adds an extra swing that you're looking for. And the way that I did that is just by doing some pitch automation, right? So you just go to this pitch automation section here, obviously MIDI control, and then you want to click pitch bend. And this is just the strategy I took here. So it just goes up in pitch and then it brings it back down. But you can mess with this and try to get as much groove or swing as you'd like. I wouldn't overdo it, but you need just a little bit to add some movement. So I think this technique is really cool, and this is really gonna help you separate yourself from the other artists. Highly recommend. This is a really good tip here, guys. Don't sleep on it. All right, let's dive into some vocals. Vocals are awesome. The reason that they use a lot of vocals here is that not a ton of synths, right, leads that go into it. So some of the styles of vocals that I see that they use are ethnic vocals, or very soul or gospel type of vocals. So as you can see here, I'd consider this an ethnic vocal. It's really choppy and kind of in the background. Right? That's one style. And then you can also leverage gospel or like soul vocals, I like to call them. So those are the types that typically work. But, you know, feel free to roam around and throw some things in there. Try something new, you know? You never know. You might come up with a new style. And then I also want to add some side notes here, guys. So typically, you know, you want to use vocals that have, you know, like a little phrase or maybe they're repetitive. One of the things that I'd recommend is to kind of space them out because I think I got this sample from the Crusy pack, but, you know, it's just a continuous loop. Now, that gets kind of boring or repetitive and kind of annoying sometimes to me, depending on how you use it. So what I like to do is either space them out or do like a call and response, where you can use a different repetitive vocal or a phrase and add that in the mix of things here. So that's one way to keep it interesting. Another way to keep it interesting is adding an auto pan or maybe like an LFO, heavy duty sidechain, and it gives it like that stutter effect. So that's another cool technique. All right, next let's talk about the kick, Big Daddy. So you know, this one's gonna be pretty simple. I like to use a kick with a lot of body, one that has a pretty strong transient, and just add like a little drum bus or some sort of saturation. As you can see, I did here. This transient knob, it's all by ear, guys. Obviously, you don't want to go overboard. I don't think that'll be necessary, but you know, the choice of kick is important, and you have to use your ear for that. But I definitely recommend one with a lot of body and good transient. Right? Nice, solid, dominant transient. You guys are going to hate me for this one, but I use the top loop. Like I said, guys, I've been really busy. But let me break down what's going down on this top loop. So I got this from the Crusy pack on Splice. Tremendous pack. I'm going to make one myself one day. I'm going to break down what's going on here as far as the top loop, right? The top loop section. So I'm going to bring this down because there's a little bit of a swing. It looks like they use a percussion and down-tuned it, which we'll get to later. But it sounds like this. But if you filter this, so what they're doing here is they're using 1/16 hi-hats, right? Messing with the velocity. So that's what's really going to add that style. Kind of like a shaker, right? And then there's also, I pan this to the right a little bit. It's just a regular, that's kind of like a shaker, but you could put a hi-hat there too. You know, typical hi-hat pattern. And we added a ride as well. So the ride is going to add more of like that swing in the background, right? Nice sustain. Now, just to reiterate my point earlier about the 1/16 hi-hats, it's literally just going to be one for each box here, right, on the 1/16. Obviously, this isn't the best example. I just did it real quick so you can visually see it. I just use the 909 Ableton drums. And I also added the clap here because the clap is going to be the same pattern as typical house track. Yeah, you can see here is just the 1/16 notes here, so... Right? Obviously, the mix and everything's not great, but just so you guys can visually see. All right, guys, next we're going to talk about some percussion loops. Here's one of my favorite things and one of the, not the secrets, but one of the techniques that the pros use. So one of the things that they do is they down pitch the percussion loops that they're using. So for example, I have this bongo loop here, and it sounds like this. Oop, let me solo that. Which is cool too, like if you want to do it that way, but I put it down to 18 semitones. That's what I thought sounded good for this track. And then obviously beats, transient, and then I brought down the release, so it's going to be a shorter sounding bongos. So it sounds like this. And it's going to add that groove to the track, so let's hear it. You see that? Here's without. Look at that. And then I also did the same thing with the, I think it was like a top loop. It has some percussions on here. Let me hear it. Yeah. So I brought it down 20 semitones. I put this one on complex because it sounded kind of crappy. I usually like to keep drums on beats. But, you know, once I added this is how it sounds like. So it's really cool to utilize that down pitch technique because that's what's going to add more groove or move into your track. You also want to EQ and maybe auto pan as well, just to make some more space in the mix. So that's what I'd recommend. All right, guys. So we're going to cover some of the finishing touches, some effects, and maybe some minimal synths or stabs. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the effects or maybe some fills that contribute to this style. So first things first, I added a conga fill here, and I think these are really cool. You can even use this inside the drop for variations. So this is how the conga fill sounds. And as you can see here, I added some crowd noise in the back to kind of give like a bigger main stage kind of feel. Kind of fits in the background. Really low, by the way. Really low volume. Just enough to add some space. To fill up space is what I was trying to say. You know, I added a crash here to add more impact to the drop. You know, guys, these little details really make a difference, I'm telling you. For the pre-drop, I added a little impact here and a reverse crash, so these two work hand in hand. Let's actually do these three so you can hear how it sounds together. Really, really important to get that jungle feel. And then I have a little bit of a drone synth here. You know, really low volume, of course. That's what's going to fill up some space as well. And then I added this little synth stab as well to add some variation to the drop. So those are some of the techniques that I use to achieve the Toolroom style. So I hope this was helpful, guys. All right, guys, big thank you for sticking out to the end. If you did find this helpful, please consider subscribing. And if you'd like to support the channel, please go over to croconation.com. And at the bottom, I have a link to one of my sound banks. It's really going to give you those tools to help you in your workflow and your production. So once again, guys, big thank you for your support. And I'll see you in the next lesson. I want to take my clothes off.